We've really built like a native integrated experience around interop that no other ecosystem has, even though they have interop.
Here we are. I'm here at Cosmoverse 2022 in Medellin, and I'm very pleased to be sitting with Zaki Mannion.
Yeah.
In this great media room that they got set up for us, and we're gonna be talking about some. I think this is probably like the freshest of alpha.
I just got off the stage.
Just got off the stage.
Just got off the stage.
Barely had any time to prepare. I think this is like the least preparation I've ever had for any conversation.
Yeah, I think we'll be
years.
talking about this for a while. So this is a first draft of history.
We can do. I think this could be a nice kind of overview of what's in Atom 2.0. But I think because we are going to be talking about Atom 2.0, you started your talk, and I think Ethan gave a talk just before talking about the vision for Cosmos and how it's been evolving, and like the vision in the 2016 white paper has been slowly materializing over the last 6-7 years. What's the vision in your view? Like, where are we heading? From here.
I think that I would say that there's two things. On one hand, I think there is an emerging vision that among many people about sort of what are the next phases of Cosmos, sort of network, ecosystem, all this stuff. How do we live in this world where like roll-ups are happening and like the sovereign build your own blockchain narrative is now like the mainstream narrative in the industry, and like how does Cosmos make sure that we're still relevant then? But I think a lot of why we decided to put Atom 2.0 center stage at this event was that we think that it will be very difficult for the tech to remain relevant if the asset is not.
Yeah.
Right? Like the asset is the thing that carries the meme. It is the thing that also funds much of the public goods in the ecosystem. Like if we do not make Atom great again, or maybe great for the first time, it'll be very difficult to see all of this work not be sort of become commoditized by like the fact that the entire industry has basically decided our thesis from 2016 was the right thesis.
Yeah. One of the things that I think really came through in the first couple talks this morning, this is something that I think a lot of people in the Cosmos space, sort of know and believe and consider to be true, but a lot of emphasis was on building new systems and like on people, right? And it's like, we sit here and look at the price and look at what's the value of Atom, and I think a lot of the conversation in the last couple of months has been around what makes Atom valuable. But at the end of the day, the vision and what we're trying to do here is actually build new types of institutions, replacing legacy systems, and at the core of that are people.
Yes.
How do we kind of revitalize this idea in the narrative?
I would also say the fact that we got to today was a huge revitalization, right? There was definitely a sense, I think, among many people about a lot of the people who have worked, used to work at Tendermint, worked on the core, like the launch of Cosmos. A lot of us kind of at the end of in the late 2020, early 2021 timeframe, kind of all went off on our own adventures in the Interchain, right? We built our own chains, we built our own thing. And maybe like we weren't as connected back into this, but with the technical advisory board at the sort of new Cosmos Hub Vision white paper, what we are trying to do, we have also this thing that called the Cosmos Builders Foundation, which has not been we didn't make as much as a star of the show because like we have too many stars of the show this time. But is going to be a big part of the future of Cosmos as well, that we have been really pulling together a revitalization of both the core group and then adding to that among a whole bunch of new people. Like so many new people have come in like people who are, not the Cosmos white paper, you'll see on the author list, there are people whose names are not known in Cosmos, right? Who've been like putting months and months of work into this new vision for Atom. And that has always been like, what is special is like the fact that someone else, new people could come into the ecosystem. But what we want to do is like grow that ability to bring new people in a way that has really felt very difficult up until now.
Yeah, and I feel that too as well. Like whenever, one example is like whenever I'm pitching like what I do, right? So I'm pitching Interop Ventures or whatever, and people tell me, oh, you're running a Cosmos fund. And I sort of have to correct them and say, no, I'm running an Interchain fund. And the vision for Interchain was set a long time ago, but there very much is sort of a pre-IBC era, I think, and like a post-IBC era. And the post-IBC era is, I think, an era where all the pre-IBC era is a lot of people who worked at Tendermint and people who worked on the hub and who did like a lot of this early work. And a lot of that,
and there were these early teams that discovered Tendermint, right?
Yeah, the early
and
teams.
Some of them built on the Cosmos SDK, and some of them went off into their own worlds, right?
Yeah.
Like we had Polygon, Binance, BNB, Smart Chain, like all of these things. But there were multiple nucleating events, right?
Yeah.
But the post IBC thing is this kind of thing where it is pulling all the pieces back together. One of the things, though, that I think has become that really strikes me about how different the Cosmos ecosystem is from all the other ecosystems is if you look at bridging right now, my sense of the entire bridging ecosystem is that it is largely stable coins outside of the IBC ecosystem.
Yeah.
Like right now, like basically the bridging ecosystem is bringing stable coins from places that don't have them to places that need them. And then there's the Cosmos ecosystem where people send tokens to every blockchain in the IBC network willy-nilly without a second thought, right? And it's because IBC feels very native, the security model is very simple, the software is very well constructed, the kinds of, where are my coins kind of experience, between Map of Zones and Cosmos Station and MintScan, their product MintScan, like we've really built like a native integrated experience around Interop that no other ecosystem has, even though they have Interop.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I think that this new sort of post-IBC Cosmos world has all of these new people that are just not very much attached to like the previous iteration of the ecosystem in ways that like, hey, people are building IBC connections to Near and Polkadot and like all these other ecosystems for whom like Cosmos Hub doesn't really have any like
they don't have any emotional attachment.
Emotional attachment to it. That's what
I think that would. So part of the problem, again, with this whole like why we need a new vision for the Cosmos Hub, is that there are a lot of people. So there's a legacy of people who've been keeping this whole thing going, who have basically an emotional attachment to the Cosmos Hub, and we're like this Atom thing, like it embodies so much of our hopes and dreams for so many years that we're not willing to let it die, right?
Yeah.
But we still have to we have to find a way to economically engage all of the new people who are coming to the IBC ecosystem in the Atom economy so that they actually are like not just like, oh, like I love this Cosmos thing. What is this Atom thing what has it ever done for me? But what Atom can do is it can, buy my tokens, hold LP positions on exchanges, provide liquidity, provide a long-term aligned capital partner. If it can, help me deal with my MEV challenges, if it can provide liquid atoms that flow out and collateralize my economy, suddenly now people are like, oh, like I know what Atom could do for me.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's leave that sort of
that was a nice
philosophy stuff behind us, and let's dive into Atom 2.0 here. So there's three main components I think that are critical to this new vision for Atom. And like you said in your talk, a lot of this stuff has already been kind of out in the open. This is just kind of digesting
again,
it
like fits really well with like Ethan's theme of integration.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's look at the three parts. So there's the liquid staking, there's this allocation module, Interchain Allocation, which I guess is meant to help fund ecosystem growth. And then there's the scheduler, which redirects cross-chain MEV.
Yeah.
So Let's maybe just start with liquid staking here, because I think it's the thing that most people in the ecosystem are familiar with, because it's existed before in Ethereum, and also lots of talk has been in, there's a lot.
We've been talking about it since
We've been talking about a lot,
since 2019. I gave a
Stride
liquid staking
and
talk.
Quicksilver and everything. So let's start with the liquid staking.
Okay, so, all right. So in 2019, in 2016 when we were figuring this out, the early Tendermint proof of stake community realized that there was a problem with proof of stake. The problem with proof of stake is if I have a flat inflation rate, or like a flat coin issuance rate, or if I have a Bitcoin style, descending coin, deflationary, descending emission rate, I'm going to run a problem. And the problem is there are going to be other things that people can do. They'll be able to lend their coins. They're going to be able to, put their coins in other applications. They'll collateralize stable coins with it. There'll be incentives on those stable coins. There'll be, we kind of imagined all of this stuff that we see today in 2016. And we're like, yeah, you can't make a hard cap work, right? We're like, fuck, you can't make a hard cap work. So we came up with this idea of adaptive issuance, where the issuance rate would adapt to the staking rate. And then we started talking a lot about liquid staking in 2019, but we still had to ship IBC. There are a lot of improvements to the staking module that we shipped in Cosmos that are possible. There's what Babylon Chain is doing with potentially reducing the unbonding time. We could have gone to a queue-based system. So depending, if not very many people are unbonding now, we could have given people shorter unbonding times. There are lots of improvements that are made, but and I think we should, this renewed energy into the staking module allows us to sort of do all of those things. But one of the things that I think has been most important is to unlock everything else, we have to solve this puzzle. We have to solve this puzzle of atoms are constraining the development of DeFi in the ecosystem. It's constraining the development of stablecoins. It's constraining the development of lending protocol. It's starving the ecosystem of applications and use cases that are important. We should be trying to solve that. And Ethan is the monetary theorist. I'm not the monetary theorist, so I don't really have strong opinions about whether or not atoms can be sound money. But what I would say is that I think atoms should be a very useful asset to the ecosystem. They should be a very strong asset. And having this world of 10% new atom issuance, where we're issuing 20 or 30 million atoms a year, is really adverse to those goals. But we had to figure out a way to do it securely. And then all of these liquid staking protocols, I started working with the occlusion team on this. Small change to the, it was hey, what is the smallest change that we can make? The other thing, though, that the liquid staking thing kind of got right, that I think is really influential on the atoms, is we are not picking a winner. We're not saying liquid staking should be Stride, it should be Quicksilver, it should be anything.
You're leaving it up to the market to decide.
We'd made some mistakes in 2021, which was we tried to pick winners. We were the gravity DEX will be the DEX. And then Osmosis came in and smashed our faces into the ground and dragged us behind a car, right? Utterly crushed the gravity DEX. We said the gravity bridge should be the bridge. And Axor came to the party and was we got better, we got some pretty good technology. Why should that be the bridge? And so one of the things that I think we've really learned over the course of 2021 was we should build into the Cosmos Hub primitives that enable a multi-vendor ecosystem of new partners to the Cosmos Hub to then come out and build and let the market decide what is the optimal staked atom? Is there one optimal staked atom? Are there five? We're starting to see a very competitive market in Ethereum liquid staking. I would love to see an even more competitive market because we've made it easier to compete.
So you're thinking of Atom and the Cosmos Hub more as a platform than a place where
Yeah, we are not. What the Cosmos Hub cannot be is it cannot be. So our thesis is application-specific blockchains, and the Cosmos Hub cannot be an application-specific blockchain.
Okay.
That is one of the things that has been one of the knots that was so hard to unpack was our thesis is application-specific blockchain. Therefore, we need to build applications in the hub for it to be there. And then we were like, when we like tried it and we failed miserably, right? Completely crushed at this. We're like, this is not wrong. Cannot be the right answer.
How does liquid staking generally, with all these different liquid staking solutions that are coming either on the hub through Interchain Security or as their own sovereign chains, how do these entering the ecosystem and providing liquid stakes assets fix issuance or address?
So what they do is they like really drive the stake rate up, and they also allow users of those liquid staking protocols to stack their yield. So it's no longer like, hey, I am staking my atom for the airdrops of the yield. I'm in this liquid staking protocol. If I'm holding liquid staked atoms, I'm getting exposure now where, airdrops hopefully get replaced more by like the scheduler and the allocation module as like the way to partner with the hub. And then so now you're holding your liquid staked assets. You're like, maybe I'm earning, maybe there's, 1% or whatever coming in for that, and there's like some scheme for distributing that in my particular liquid staking protocol. But like now I'm encouraged to take my liquid stake asset, take it to Mars protocol, take it to IST, take it to, and like go out and earn on top of that. So like now, instead of this asset that is like holding back the explosion of the economy, now suddenly you have, N billion dollars, whatever it's worth at the time, suddenly flows out and suddenly seeds everything else. Right? And so like we truly have like a big bang from the liquid staking protocols.
So it addresses issuance by increasing the staking rate and then therefore reducing the issuance rate.
Yeah, so like right now our floor issuance is 7%.
Right.
And the white paper that has come out, the proposed floor issuance now would actually fall all the way to 300,000 atoms a month.
Okay.
Which would probably end up being like approximately 1%.
Okay.
And then there's options for which we can go into, which aren't really sketched out in the white paper, but like is going to be a great thing for the community to discuss. Which is either we could even go further, we could go to zero issuance, or under some conditions, or we could go to this world of where there's a burn from the scheduler and allocation revenue that offsets that.
Okay, well let's get into the allocation, because I think the allocation module is the one that I understand the least, probably because I don't have a great understanding of the Olympus DAO treasury thing. So can you explain some of the top down? Because
let's talk about it. So one of the things that what Olympus does is, so Olympus came up with this very clever mechanism.
So Olympus was a stable coin.
Olympus, was a stable coin.
Yeah.
The problem with it is it's not a stable coin, right? Why is Olympus, problematic is that it's not actually an effective way of constructing a stable coin for a variety of different reasons. There's a great paper from Tarun and Guillermo and stuff like this about the analyzing the Olympus mechanism. And it does a bad job of being a stable coin. But what they came up with was, one of the problems, why does no one just do I'm going to pass a governance proposal and buy some Osmo? Why don't we just diversify our treasury into Osmo? Well, what price should we do that Osmo at?
You mean the hub?
Right. Yeah.
Let's bring Osmo into the hub of treasury.
Yeah. So to align incentives, or let's hold a bunch of LP pairs of Osmo Atom in the hub, and why don't we just do this with governance proposals? And that's what's existed. And then, but what you have is what was most effectively demonstrated by the Constitution DAO debacle was, hey, if you're a decentralized entity, everyone can see your price preferences, right? And everyone will be well, we'll just charge you the most you're willing to pay or outbid you, right? It's constantly this adverse selection on pricing. And what Olympus came up with is this idea of, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to target essentially buying assets at a certain rate, but we're not going to target price. And so if we're able to deploy at the target rate, we'll decrease the price that we're willing to pay. And if we're not able to hit our target rate of capital deployment, we'll increase the price that we'll pay. This is really it's a very clever mechanism. It allows you to not have to deal with the DEX. And basically the people now arbing this mechanism are actually optimizing the discount rather than sort of trying to exploit the hub for as much money as it can get out.
Okay.
That's really inspirational because now you can build we can build these like sort of things that, so the allocation module basically says there should be things like this. We're not going to build a thing like this into the Cosmos Hub. But what we're saying is, in a world where there are things like this, we can allocate assets. And then what we'll also have is this rebalancer concept, which is, again, uses some similar mechanism designed to this. But when those assets, when those things return non-Atom assets to the hub treasury, we actually have the ability to do treasury management.
Okay.
Right? Instead of just having, and so these are the two ideas.
And is this treasury management happens through governance?
Yeah, but it's setting these like large scale parameters that like guide these like economic little machines that like are not like, oh, let's like go dump a bunch of Osmo on. No, let's like tune the parameters so it's like, oh, you can like, put some atoms in and get Osmo out at like a certain rate, and like when you're trying to like, we thought Osmo went up a lot, and now we want to unwind our position.
And when you're talking about the treasury of the hub, you're talking about the treasury that then gets deployed as like community grant proposals and things of that nature. What are the use cases?
Collectively owned assets of the hub.
Okay, and so the allocation module will help better not only help the hub better bring assets into its treasury, but also better deploy assets into the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Okay, because currently the hub only holds atoms.
Yeah,
it doesn't
exactly.
hold any other.
It doesn't hold
positions.
anything else. It doesn't diversify. It doesn't, and like it's very cumbersome to say, hey, I am a new chain launching in the ecosystem. We did the Prop 72 thing with Neutron, right? But like super cumbersome and like, okay, like, it's just like yet another multi-sig that like we have to manage and stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
It's very high trust. We're not able to actually deploy that much capital through it, right?
Oh, I see. So the allocation module would also do, like in the case of Prop 72. Prop 72. I guess for many proposals where people are asking for funds, someone sets up a multi-sig, those funds go into that multi-sig, and there's a sort of like an assumption that those people will do the right thing with the funds.
Yeah.
The allocation module can actually set maybe allocation
timeline, right? Yeah, it can set a stream of atoms towards some
project,
some sort of goal.
Okay,
with some expected return.
Yeah.
So like the idea is this, that like, if you were flowing assets towards like a neutron, there would be a flow of neutrons back into the community pool, right?
Yeah.
That like you would accumulate this asset, and then the treasury management function can actually figure out what to do with it.
Does it only have to be like a financial return? Or like one of the things I was thinking about, because for Nebular Summit we did a proposal where we asked the Evmos for tokens, and then when we got the tokens we did the conference, and then later people were like, hey, you should write to the community and tell them what they got for their marketing spend, right? And so I think there's this like idea of deliverables that is underexploited, and so are there, in the case of Neutron, in your example, Cosmos Hub streams atoms into Neutron. Neutron streams back tokens to the hub. For things that are less financialized, for instance, funding a conference or funding open source software, what kinds of guarantees can the hub get that these things are actually getting done? Let's say you're funding someone who's building open source software. What kind of deliverables can those people provide to the hub?
The white paper, this is the part of the white paper that I spent the least mental energy on, but other people spent a lot of mental energy on, was this new assembly system, this new governance system. And these things are sort of overlapped and coordinated, right? On one hand, you have like the allocation module, which is conceived of as, there is an intention of getting financial return, right? Of like obtaining assets. Because I do think that one of the core things that you need to have a successful interchain that works together is this mechanism of, hey, there are like coordinated assets.
Yeah.
That Atom is like sort of can get exposure to all of these other assets, rather than like, oh, I'm a Cosmos investor, I have to constantly be like chasing every single chain that launches. Like there is more of a coordinated mechanism, there's more of a shared exposure to the ecosystem.
So as an investor, this might be also going off into a tangent here, but as an investor, one could feel comfortable investing in Atom and knowing that Atom or the hub is making investments, or at least funding things that
and it's
value
giving you some derivative exposure, some exposure to the other, and like, you know, if when these investments become profitable, there's some opportunity to, like, you know, they will be, you know, you do atom buybacks and burns and stuff like that to, like, sort of.
And so these assets that are in the treasury, can the hub also stake them?
Absolutely.
Wow. Far out.
Interchain accounts are pretty magical, man.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I think Braps talked to me about this on the episode I did with him recently, and I was like, wait, what? A chain could stake tokens in its treasury?
So, like, in the next hub upgrade,
Yeah.
we will be able to do interchain accounts governance actions.
Because right now, you know, in the case of the delegations that the ICF announced, these are manual operations, effectively, right?
Yeah.
Like these are people deciding where those tokens go.
Yeah.
In the future, we could have these things basically be on chain, be governed by
Yeah.
governance.
So again, and this is like, you know, again, I think the hub can, like, really, can more than any other organization. I mean, Swiss Foundation has the ability to absolutely make credible commitments.
Yeah.
Because of its governance structure.
Yeah.
But I think the hub can also make credible commitments. And I think you saw this really nicely with Olympus. Like, Olympus did this. They were like, hey, we will hold your asset. Like, if we're buying an asset, we will credibly commit to holding it for a longer period of time.
Very cool.
And so, yeah, I would like there to be a world that the allocation module now becomes a mechanism that is like, the Atom community is like the most credible capital partner in the entire ecosystem. That we're more credible than any venture fund. We're more credible than the ICF. Like, it's the Atom DAO essentially is the most credible capital partner. So you're like, hey, you know, oh, Atom DAO, you want to hold IST Atom LP tokens? Like, we not only know that, but we know that you're willing to, like, sort of ride or die with those. Like, you'll hold them for 10 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think we could really go deeper here, but let's talk about the scheduler.
I gotta, like, you know, you know, there's so many people who are here whose names are on the white paper and people whose names are not on the white paper who've contributed to these ideas, and so you got to talk to all of them, because this is. Zucky is the sacrificial lamb to the Atom gods, but, you know, there's a lot of people with a lot of ideas here, and a lot of people who I'm hoping we will all build this together.
Yeah, and I think I'll get some of those people on the podcast and maybe dive in deeper into some of these things.
You can do an entire podcast series going author by author.
Yeah. All right, then let's touch on the final piece, the scheduler. I think this is one of the most interesting pieces. Yeah, what's the scheduler and
yeah, I mean, I think MEV is still a quite esoteric topic to a lot of people, and
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I kind of, you know, and I do, but, you know, the basic idea of, if you have a market on chain, information about that market, like the flow of information through markets creates value.
Yeah.
And being able, and like one of the things that is kind of sort of weird and interesting about the world is that, like essentially in the world, information is continuously being generated. Like, people's preferences about, so, like, you know, I'm like up on stage giving my talk about Atom 2.0, but Osmosis only makes a block every 5 seconds, right? So I'm talking about things, people's preferences and their expected future value of Atom is dynamically changing sort of in real time.
Yeah.
But blockchain markets are only updating every time you make a block, right? And so there's this continuous transfer of information, and the most valuable transfer of information is functionally between the centralized exchange ecosystems and the decentralized exchange ecosystems. And I think Atom is going to continue to be in a privileged place for those flows.
See, this was the thing about your talk that this is the argument I think stands up the least, because yeah, people have been talking about Atom being in this privileged place of being the on and off ramp for you know, for centralized exchanges. Effectively, right now, I think Atom is the only asset in the Interchain that is listed. Juno is supposed to be listed. I don't think it's listed yet, but that doesn't have to remain the case forever.
Yeah, but so I can't put all my cards on the table yet. I've got some other. We've got some other stuff.
Okay, but yeah, let's assume that, like, Atom remains, you know, the dominant IBC asset.
Yeah, so
that
I
is
think there's a
listed
couple of
with
questions here, right? One is, So you have two things that I think, I decided to take that tack in the talk. But, so two things. One is Atom and the Atom secured things being the dominant on-ramp, off-ramp is one thing. Second thing is, we all want to live in a future where decentralized exchanges, that's where most price discovery happens, et cetera. In both of those worlds, having a slice of the block space, a valuable slice of the block space futures market is a really powerful thing, and is perhaps is like the most aligned sort of fee mechanism that I think you can conceive of.
Okay, so how does this work?
So
explain what a block space futures market is.
Yeah. So now we got to go to really into the details. Okay.
That's what we're
So
here.
here's how this is how we imagine this thing. The way we imagine this thing is right now, every block proposer on a Cosmos chain has unilateral authority over what they put in their block, right? And so we have started, we see some MEV extraction on Osmosis now, on
Through
Ethereum.
things like
Mekatech,
yeah.
Skip, whatever else people are doing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have countermeasures like threshold encryption and stuff like that. But anyway, it doesn't change the fact that we have unilateral authority. Well, we have these two new Tendermint APIs that are in alpha right now in the next Tendermint release. And it lets you apply additional conditions to the block. So what we could do is actually say, hey, okay, so you have you have the auction chain. You have this auction chain. The auction chain is saying, hey, on this auction chain, we auction off block space on let's say all the interchain. I need chain that's opt-in.
This would be like a separate chain that just does auctioning.
Just does block space auctions.
Okay.
But it has IBC connections to a lot of to the interchain security chains, potentially beyond that. Anything that's opt-in. And there's a new IBC protocol, the block space futures IBC protocol. This block space futures IBC protocol says, okay, on the block space futures chain, you win the auction for block 6,000. It will say, you send an IBC packet of that auction winning to the chain where that block will happen. And you say, hey, on that block, on that chain,
the validator
proposes that block.
Yeah.
That block is only valid if the top of the block, let's say the first 20% of gas consumed in the block, is assigned by the winner of the auction.
Okay.
So this is called a physically delivered block space future.
Okay. And why would someone want to buy this block space for the future? Why would someone want to buy future block space?
So the reason why someone would is now, so Skip and Mekatech, what they don't have in the current system is enforceable execution rights. Okay? So if you're a builder right now, you don't actually have an enforceable right. You just have this reputation market where it's oh, I told you that I would propose this, and you were willing to pay me, and maybe you didn't, and maybe you stole the MEV yourself, and maybe I'll kick you out of the marketplace. But it's it's not a really protocol enforced right. If you go to this world of protocol enforced block space,
just maybe just it bears just because you said MEV is big esoteric, so it bears just reminding how this builder validator relationship works. So in the case of Mekatech,
yes.
Mekatech builds the block. Mekatech looks at all the things happening on chain, builds the block in a way that will extract the most value, sells that information to the validator.
Yes.
The validator, because Mekatech is not running validators, that's not their business.
Yep.
A validator is not doing MEV, that's not their business, or not doing MEV building.
They're not doing this discretionary thing.
Right. The validator...
The discretion is living at the builder.
Exactly. So the builder sells that information to the validator. The validator agrees to execute, to basically structure that block with those transactions in that order, and then give a portion of that back to Mekatech, and then the validator takes the rest.
Usually in the block itself.
Right.
Mekatech will generate.
Yeah, but they don't have to.
Yeah.
They could also be running some sort of software that optimizes that block, but removes that Mekatech transaction or whoever the builder is. What you're saying is that this scheduler model effectively says it is enforced. So when you buy that block space, whoever bought that block space, they decide what goes in there. The validator can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Or they'll get slashed or something. Some incentive mechanism will get triggered.
Like the block will either have a signed chunk from the winner, or it'll be empty. And if, like, we could say also if you produce like n empty blocks, we'll slash you.
Okay. Yeah, so I think where we're going was, what's the point of, like, why would someone want to buy future block space?
So the biggest thing about it is that now you get this, like, as a builder, you get this enforceable right.
Yeah.
But this enforceable right is even more powerful if you have it across multiple chains.
Okay.
So if you're like, hey, there's a transaction that we need to execute, where it's like, I want to be able to make sure that, I get atoms, I get an outgoing IBC I like exit my atoms from a centralized exchange, get an IBC transaction, and get them outgoing to Agoric so I can get some IST for whatever reason. And I can do all of that with the highest probable priority. Now, if someone has a physical, like sort of a guaranteed protocol right, and I know that this builder has it, I can go to that builder and they can give me really strong execution guarantees that not just like on one chain they'll be able to do something, but like that entire sequence of actions could potentially be executed like with a high degree of certainty about delivery.
So who's going to be buying this block space? Mostly builders.
Mostly builders.
Mostly builders. So you expect that there will be a market of builders.
There will be I expect that there will be a market of builders.
Okay, and so the scheduler, I mean, like technically speaking, what does the scheduler allow, and do we need also like these block space auctioning chains to exist, or does it take it into account somehow?
Yeah.
Like where does the auctioning actually happen?
It happens on an interchain secured application specific chain.
Okay, which doesn't exist.
Which doesn't exist.
Which doesn't exist, but the scheduler is the technology that makes it possible for that block space to be enforced.
So what exists right now is Tendermint 0.37 is prepare block, process block.
Yeah.
We'll write a Cosmos SDK module that you can include in your chain.
Yeah.
That like fulfills this protocol. It'll speak a new IBC protocol. So just like we have interchain accounts, interchain security, token transfers, NFT transfers, now there will be another one.
And so you expect many auction blockchains to come into existence, like a marketplace of auction blockchains, or is like...
In the perfect world, like...
There's one.
There's one, and it's the Atom one.
Okay.
But we'll see.
So this is what you're not revealing yet. Is like there may be an Interchain security auction chain on the hub that most people will use.
Yep.
And maybe some others like will emerge, and there will be a marketplace of those. But you expect the Atom one.
Yeah, especially because it is being able to offer contiguous blocks across multiple chains is like one of the most valuable market propositions.
Well, that's a ton of stuff. How does how does this stuff all play together to create an ecosystem of applications that sort of accrues value and
so
how do we turn this into like the vision for the Cosmos?
Yeah, so how does this all fit together? So one part of it is, I think the adoption of DeFi application. I'd say so there's two basic applications that we found in blockchain so far. Like one is DeFi and the other one is NFTs.
Yeah.
Cosmos is really thriving in the DeFi space. So for that ecosystem and how all of this will play and combine and synthesize with the DeFi ecosystem, I think that is something that's very clear in my mind, and I think it'll be increasingly clear to other people. The flip side of that is if we want how this plays out with sort of mass market consumer applications, I feel like that is more like Stargaze, Saga, those kinds of things. I think one of my what as a practical matter, one of the things that is a weakness of mine is look, I've been thinking about DeFi since 2015. I've been excited about DeFi. I'm very excited about expanding the user world of people. I think DeFi is a huge liberating force for humanity. The sort of current set of mass market applications I don't really understand or know very much about. So But I think in this DeFi ecosystem that we see emerging in Cosmos, this new set of pieces for Atom make a huge difference.
I think so. Yeah, it's certainly very exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing like where this is going to be in 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, I know. It really. I think we've really set up. I think like one of the things that is that should be the clearest takeaway of this conference for people is we've set a North Star. We hope that the community is excited and embraces this North Star. We have a group of people who are not only going to keep building the stuff that we're already building, but can also build towards this North Star. And we are doing this with the vision of building a much healthier ecosystem.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on, and certainly a great ambition.
Thanks.
Zaki, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this.